How does the frequency spectrum or the range of frequencies available play into what an equalizer does?
Well, as humans, we only hear a certain amount of frequencies. So we hear really from 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz, which is, hertz is just a measurement. Basically the cycles per second. So a cycle is, if you're familiar with audio waveforms, a cycle is like a push and a pull, or a
peak and a
compression
valley.
and a rarefaction,
Okay.
a peak and a valley, like we would see on the screen. So we use EQ within that usable range, that 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Typically, I mean, there's certain EQs that go higher and certain EQs that go lower, but typically we stay within that usable 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz range. So let's take a listen to what that is. So let's start getting everybody on the same page, so then we can really get to the fun stuff. So I'm going to pull up a frequency generator here in Pro Tools, and also pull up a frequency analyzer so we can see what's going on. All right, so just a little bit quickly about this frequency analyzer. We've got 20 hertz all the way down here on the left-hand side, all the way up to 20,000 hertz, or in the audio world, we call that 20K or 20 kilohertz. So let's start this sine wave going. Let's get this all the way down. Well, you know what? It would help if I had this routed correctly. There we go.
There it is.
There we go. So here's 20 hertz all the way down. As we sweep up, you can hear that frequency getting higher. Come up into the mid-range frequencies. And it should start getting, sorry about that if that's a little loud. That down. It starts getting a little bit louder, as you can hear, when we get into those really higher mid-range frequencies. And then we go all the way up, and you should start maybe not being able to hear that. Let me mute this so we don't drive any dogs crazy. Yeah, as we get a little bit older too, we start to lose some of those higher frequencies. So I couldn't hear up to about 17 or 18,000 hertz. Like I start dropping off. But kids, kids can hear. all those frequencies.
Does attending a concert or working with heavy machinery anywhere that you would be like exposed to very loud noises, does that affect your ability to understand or hear those higher frequencies?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have earplugs that I take everywhere with me, just about. Little filters that I wear at concerts so I don't damage my ears. And that's definitely one thing I tell everybody, all new engineers that I help out. Protect your ears, because high frequencies is the first thing that goes with your hearing. And as an engineer, it's your job to, or even just a music enthusiast who you like to produce your own music, it's really your job to be able to hone in on those frequencies. That's most of what we do is frequencies and volume. So if you start losing those frequencies, you're in big trouble.
Take care of your ears.
Absolutely, yeah. Prolonged listening at very loud levels is ultra bad for you.
So how as you were doing the sweep across the frequencies, I was able to connect with what I heard in a musical way. I kind of heard notes. Are notes, like on a piano, say, are those related to the frequency response and the frequency chart that we were just that you were showing us on Pro Tools? Absolutely.
Frequencies are a direct correlation to notes, musical notes. There is actually if you do a Google search for the frequency of musical notes, you'll find there's a couple charts out there. There's a couple posters you can download. I know some of my friends have wallpaper on their computer is frequency of musical notes. But there's a really helpful one that we've found. Should we show that?
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll be showing that throughout the course. We may as well get into that right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, very quickly. There's this one here.
This is an interactive chart, right?
This
So
is
as
an
you
interactive.
scroll over, you can see how some different areas of the frequency spectrum are related to different instruments.
Absolutely. You'll see the piano notes here, and that corresponds to the different octaves and the different keys. And then if you go up to the top, you'll see voice or vocals. So that's kind of where a male vocal lives, right in that 100 hertz all the way up to 16K. And there's root notes and harmonics and overtones and all that stuff in there. And it gives you just kind of a nice list of all these instruments.
So I see kind of a color coordination on this graph. Does that represent the different regions of what you might find on an equalizer? Maybe like the lows, low mids, high mids, etc.
Absolutely. So the EQ spectrum is really broke up into three main parts, and then kind of sub broken up into different parts from there. We've got basically the lows, the mids, and the highs. And the lows are broken up into like sub bass, bass, and you've got your mids, which are low mids, mids, high mids, and then your highs. And those, I've got some frequencies here. The lows really go from about 20 hertz to right around 200 hertz or 250 hertz. Some people call it 200, some people call it 250. It's kind of a moving scale.
Mm-hmm.
Low mids really go from about 200 hertz up to maybe 700-ish, right around there. And the low mids are very important. The low mids are going to be where almost all of your kind of root notes for just about most of your instruments live, in the low mids and mids. So you got to be really careful when we start talking about equalizing them and changing the tone of those things. Mids run from about 700 hertz up to somewhere between 2 and 3K.
Okay.
Those are your like typical mid-range frequencies. And then from there we've got 3K to 7K. That's kind of like your high mids. And then right around 7K and above, those are the highs. There's not a lot of musical note information in those higher frequencies, but there's a lot of overtones and harmonics, and we'll talk about those terms here in just a little bit too.